Hello, Mad Cool. Alright, so what were we talking about again? Oh, yeah, so I was going to talk about technical avenues to success in streaming. There are several ways this can happen, and none of these are going to guarantee anything. They mildly increase your chances. Very, very mildly. You still have to get lucky as all hell, and just certain people have to notice you. Probably a host, like a few hosts, huge hosts continuously. Basically, lightning has to strike your face twice, kind of thing, in rapid succession, and then maybe things will work out for you. But, okay, way number one is you get insanely good at a super popular game, and you have something vaguely approximating a personality that isn't total garbage. Then maybe you start getting some notice. Alternatively, what's even better is you're very good at something, and you have that sort of quasi-memey internet humor personality. It's not like the forced one. It's like, that's legitimately how you are. You know, I have no complaints when people are like this. But you have that kind of internet funny personality. You use the memes that all the kids like, and generally just kind of don't give a shit about anything. You're very kind of easygoing. Okay, here are good examples of this, and I don't mean this in a condescending way. I think these guys are amusing and good streamers. Like, I'm a Cutie Pie or Kripparrian, that sort of thing. Kripparrian's actually an interesting example because he got in super early too, so that obviously helped him. But he's very lax about it, and it's like, you know, everything just kind of goes to hell in his chat, and he just kind of, you know, whatever's it. And you have to have kind of like this odd intelligence about you. You have to be sort of like, this is a weird way of phrasing it, but like internet meme nerd alpha, if that makes any sense. Do you guys where I'm coming, you know, where I'm coming from with this kind of thing? It's like, you're intelligent, but it's an approachable intelligence kind of thing. You know, anyway, I don't know really how to elaborate on that better than I currently am, so I'm just going to leave that. That's kind of a very weird niche case anyway. So that kind of stuff helps. What was the other thing I was talking about? A bit smarter than normal, but smart in the right sorts of ways. Especially if you're like really good at like thinking about video games. Again, I'm going to use Kripparrian as an example. He's very smart about every game he plays. At least from what I used to see of him. I haven't really watched his stream too much lately because he plays nothing but Hearthstone. I don't really care about Hearthstone. But the ability to kind of like work with video game systems and manipulate them certainly helps. And then kind of relate that in a very sort of approachable way. But that's kind of an older thing. This is a bit more of a niche case. So I'm starting with like fringe ways of, you know, things working out for you. So I wouldn't think about that too much. The other way is to be a total sack of shit and get really noticed for being garbage. And you are totally committed to it. Like, that is your personality, or at least your online persona. You are a sack of shit all the time to an extreme degree, and you appeal to that niche just nonstop. No, not that exact. I'm not talking about the Casey Tron, because I mean those people they have their, that's something different. I'm talking more like, I mean, allegedly he's better, but sort of like that Tyler One niche, or like the IRL streamer. Who's that guy that got banned? Like Ice Poseidon. I think Grosscore got banned for being a piece of shit. I don't know too much about him, but that, like, his name kept coming up with stuff like that. Like, just be an unapologetic sack of shit. And then you appeal to that sort of... And then you're very kind of gregarious and forceful with that sort of thing. So you... Did I say Tyler? Because I meant to say Tyler One, because he apparently, like, people say he's, quote, reformed or something. I don't know. But, because I've never actually watched a Tyler One stream. But that was definitely sort of the reputation he seemed to have. So be just sort of very forceful with that and appeal to sort of basically shitty people, but not normal shitty, but like the very wormy sort of shitty people who are looking to cling to the quote alpha male or some sort of leader. People you can just kind of minions, essentially. People you can bully around who don't like to think for themselves and are like, ha ha ha, you did your, you know, meme, you know, piece of shit on the internet shtick. So that's one way. I don't know how reliable that is the thing, because I don't have really experience with that kind of thing. But it seems to work for some people. I know that you can do that and leech off of other people. There was an IRL streamer who basically was leeching off of Ice Poseidon. And he's also known as like a piece of shit because he runs around in public for the IRL stuff and just is a nuisance. I don't remember his name. So yeah, basically leech off of other people. If at all possible, if you want to get ahead of the streaming and you have nothing to lose anyway, stream sniping works. Again, in that whole kind of be a piece of shit idea. Just get in the way of other people's streams that are bigger than you and try and leech off things that way. What was the other way? The other way, which is, again, this is the thing that has a bit more to do with my stream. And again, it's not like something I'm gunning for, really. It's more so, you know, me and success, our paths may or may not cross at some point in the future kind of thing. But what you can do is commit to a very specific game. I think this is the more realistic way in general, like not just my stream, but just kind of like it's open to more people, is you have to get lucky with games. You pick a game, or not even pick a game, but you just like, you go to a game very early, get into it as early as possible, and hope to hell that it blows up out of nowhere. So I'm talking about, like, for example, the people who got in beta with Hearthstone, very early League of Legends streamers, like beta League of Legends streamers. What's another example? I don't know, I guess like the really early H1Z1 people, you know, stuff like that. Get either somehow build up an audience very early or get good enough that you're noticed and that sort of thing early on. Hope that the market for that kind of stream doesn't get flooded and is noticed by the big streamers who will all just like descend upon this game because it's the new release and steal all audience. Or if they do, they hang around briefly, then leave, but the game is good enough that the people that were watching them actually stick around the game. Because this is the thing. People talk about how big streamers are going to come in, and then there'll be like a void once they leave. A lot of games, they leave a void, certainly, and it stays a void because no one fills it. Certain games will sometimes draw people in that were that, you know, the big stream, from the big streamers thing. And then, well, this game's cool, I want to keep watching it. And so you got to hope that after these people all leave, they're going to want to watch you, the people who are actually really good at the game. And so it all has to, and then you also have to, like, it also has to work out in such a way that your stream is interesting, you're good at it, the competition to the left is not too excessive, and that kind of stuff. So again, it has to be a very, very, like, you have to be quite lucky for things to work out exactly that way, because a lot of games, they'll be big for about a week, the big streamers leave, and then the viewers leave too. There's no one left. That's happened to games that I've done with several times. Like basically every game I pick ends up being like that. For example, like Dawn of War. Actually, we were perfect. Was this why we started talking about this? I don't think it was. But anyway, we had that Dawn of War example, right? It was decently big for a while. I got pretty good at it. Then like people stopped paying attention to it on Twitch, and no one was streaming it, and no one was watching it. So the fact that I was pretty good at the game just was not an asset. Nothing beats League in what? Viewership? There are things that beat it in viewership. PUBG. But anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah, that happened to Absolver as well. Absolver is really unfortunate because I was saying, you know, I reached a pretty good level in that. Had Absolver taken off, I think that would have been really cool to just be like one of the Absolver streamers, to really have gone for that. I'm not saying it's guaranteed, but it's certainly something I would have been willing to work for had there been a big Absolver audience, becoming like the Absolver streamer, at least one of them. There's a feeling and team... Well, I mean, feeling is entirely subjective. For example, League of Legends to me has the feeling of moist garbage. Like, it invokes no positive emotions in me. And if you talk about team-based objective PvP... Is that feeling? Well, no other game that I play. I'm sure if I played more games, I would find a game that I would find mechanically and tactically more objectionable than League. It's just I don't play those. The difference is I actually have to play League. That's the only difference. Like I'm pretty sure if I played Bad Rats or something, I would find it equally objectionable, if not more so. Anyway, so what was I talking about? Oh yeah, so stuff like that. Oh yeah, there's another game I played that was a little bit like that. For Honor was huge for about a week. And then basically the viewership largely left the game. For Honor was a weird one. Because, I mean, I wasn't in position to really take advantage of that. I didn't get in it early enough. Like, the people who became really... Basically, the people who became the For Honor people were the alpha. Like, they got in during alpha testing. So people like Ice Guys. And he was very, very good at the game. He is very good at the game. He's still really good. But, yeah, again, viewership basically died for that game outside of maybe, like, 2 people. If your name wasn't, like, Ice Guys... and like maybe one other guy who was on the directory at the time, like you couldn't make your way in Absolver. There was no growth to be had there. Are you making a living with streaming? Depends on your definition of making a living. I mean, I exist. Anyway, those are my thoughts on like the potential of becoming... you know, having a chance doing well with streaming. Now, granted, I'm skipping all the basic stuff. This is sort of like general, I guess, meta considerations of what game to pick and, you know, how to strategize and all that stuff. Like, then there's all this baseline stuff that sometimes people like to talk about, like, have a schedule, be positive all the time. You know, a bunch of these bullshit answers that people should not be saying or ways to get ahead in Twitch. It's just what you do, you know. It either works out for you, it doesn't, and like the baseline, the framework for your stream is there or it isn't, you know. I feel like I'm not sure. I feel like this guy is being misquoted. What the hell was his name? Carnage. I don't know what exactly he said, but I hear a lot of people say that he said, like, there's this notion of riding the wave and jumping into the new big game is a good way to try and get ahead. which it's not. If you just go into it normally, it's just like, it's the big game. Even if you try and snipe certain time slots after the big people leave, like, it's not going to do anything. You know, I feel like basically advice from anyone who's already, like, quote, made it as a streamer is not going to be relevant anymore. The longer ago they did it, the less relevant it's going to be. So those are the most truthful answers, I think, when you know, other streamers talk about this sort of thing. It's like, I actually like Man vs. Games answer the best with this sort of thing. I think it's like, he gets asked the question a lot. It's like, you know, you got any tips for streaming? How to become a successful streamer? And his, like, he's got a thing where he goes on to, but the part I like about it was that his answer is if you're asking me, you've already failed. Yeah. How you guys doing, chat? What's going on here? Another successful way to get ahead in streaming is to read your chat and interact with your audience. Who said that? What, the thing I said? Man vs. Game. Either get lucky or put in a shitload of actual work. It's a combination. Put in a shitload of work and get lucky. It's basically always both. Well, at a minimum, it's get lucky. You can, like, get, I suppose, lucky with no work. I guess. Maybe. I can't think of an example. I'm sure it exists. But... well, that's the thing. Like, if you become too big as a streamer, you can't read your whole chat. I mean, you can try. I've seen people sort of do it. The only person I've ever seen successfully read basically everything in his chat while it's flying across the screen while he plays is Witwix. That is the only example I can think of. I'm sure there are other examples. But yeah. Like, I mean, it's difficult. Like, I can't even, like, you know, sometimes the chat here moves like molasses because, you know, maybe there's not a lot of people here or whatever, you know. I'm playing League of Legends and it's boring. But, you know, it depends on the game type, too. For, like, if you're playing League of Legends or really any kind of competitive game, or even a single-player game that requires, like, intense focus at any specific or at any given time, it's very difficult to look over and read chat. Like, I try and catch what I can, but certainly while I'm playing League, if I'm in a point, you know, even if I don't really give a shit about the game, like, if I'm at a point where I want to do well, I can't look over. Like, it'll just get me killed, so... Now, in the case of Witwix, I don't know. He's actually another good example of what I was talking about. That kind of smart in the right sort of ways, and is like like an approachable internet meme smart sort of guy. He's basically, he seems to be good and intelligent about every game he plays, and he can kind of. Basically, he gets good at every game he plays. And at the same time, like, it seems like some sort of mark of intelligence where you can play the game and, like, read everything in your chat at the same time. Now, granted, when he was doing this, he was playing I Want to Be the Boshi. And, you know, it's I Want to Be the Boshi, but he was speedrunning. He'd beaten that game, like, 6,000 times. So, you know, it's just him doing the same thing over and over again, largely. So, you know, it's a bit probably easier, even if it is Boshi, to read the chat if you're, you know, kind of going through this rote memorization process, muscle memory sort of thing. But I think he largely kept doing that, even in games that weren't Boshi too, like when he was doing Mario Maker, stuff like that. Some of small YouTube and Twitch channels that have the same quality, names also have good interaction with fans, but because it can't get big. Wait, can't get big because of what? Or can't get big just because they haven't found their lucky break? Certain amount of viewers you kind of stop. I don't think you ever, like... Well, it depends on the streamer, yeah, obviously, but... Some try to keep reading where they can. I certainly... And here's the thing. With streaming and reading chat, it's, aside from being very difficult to read everything, a lot of the time, your eyes kind of skip over certain things in a very weird way. It's not intentional. Even if, like, something is typed in chat and you look back at it later and it's like, how did I miss that? It's, like, right above the thing I was reading, and it's, like, a more relevant question to what I was talking about or something like that. Like, the kind of thing you would think a streamer would notice in chat, they may not necessarily notice it just because of the position of where it has to be and where their eyes were able to look in between that small break. Yeah, we'll be talking about World of Warcraft in a minute. We'll get around to that eventually. So, yeah, and it depends if you're like trying to read. Like, yeah, at a certain point, you're probably going to stop trying to read everything. You just can't do it. I know, like, even the chat here can get like that sometimes. Because, sometimes, there are actually a lot of people in here. Especially just, like, new PB stuff. Just the other day, I think, how many do we have? Like, we had in excess of 200, which is not huge, but... The chat can go fast enough that I can't keep up with it, definitely, while playing, even if I'm, like, mostly paying attention to it. Has recall changed? What? Like, again, or to the new thing? A small channel, but just don't grow much. Oh, you mean like the channel you're talking about, smaller channels with high production value? Yeah, production value doesn't mean anything, really. I mean, it can help. I would say it's one of those... It's the lesser of the building blocks. Like that baseline foundation stuff I was talking about. It's all more so about, like, the luck and the, those factors that I was talking about at the beginning of this discussion. And I would say it's, like, the least important one. Like, I don't feel like that's required for example, if this channel was ever to get big. I don't think the production value is ever going to be a key component of that. But it's nice to have, certainly. Like, it wouldn't hurt my channel if I had high production value. It would probably help in a demonstrable sort of way, but not enough for me to bother with it. Star Citizen is going. Why do you say it's going to be the next big thing? Why is that? Because if you can say, if you can tell what's going to be the next big thing, and I'm assuming you're talking about within a Twitch context, what's going to be the next big thing in Twitch, you're answering a question that basically no streamer can ever answer. Everyone is just playing darts blindfolded, trying to, like, roughly guess what the next big thing is going to be. That's the other thing, yeah, predicting what's going to be the next big game. I guess I never talked about that. Like, there has to be just such a perfect storm for certain things to take off and stay big things. A lot of things can be big very briefly. Like, it just really has to have a big marketing campaign and be, like, somewhat recognized and anticipated. And then all the big streamers will jump on it for a while, and it's big for a while. But it needs to, like, basically, for it to, like, on top of that, stick around, it needs to happen to catch the right sort of, for lack of a better phrase, I don't even like using it, but like a zeitgeist, like the rough mood of what people want to watch and play and what's popular and what other people have been doing and what's coming up next and what just came before it and what sorts of people are promoting this game, who sticks around with it, what's the kind of, does this big streamer have some other game he wants to go back to? Does this other big streamer, is he pissed off with his current main game and he's looking to, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, like I said, there's just so many damn factors. Star Citizen's first game of this kind. Star Citizen is weird because I don't know anything about it. The only thing I ever really hear about it is, like, just weird... I don't even know if it's news, but just, like... It almost feels like a cloud of drama. And I don't even really know why. Like, being a good game in and of itself is not enough, or even unique, is not enough to make something big on Twitch. There just needs to be, again, it has to be this perfect storm, like this bizarre alchemy, and the right atmospheric conditions for something to work out. Yeah, some games you can tell right away whether they'll stick around or not. Like, obviously, like, single-player things will generally not stick around. Some single-player games will stick around longer than others, especially if they at least have some kind of online component. For example, like, Dark Souls games tend to have a medium shelf life. Because, A, there's an online component, and just because of the way Dark Souls is. You know, there's always the challenge run stuff that people like. And so some people will be able to make a thing out of Dark Souls, and they'll stick around with that, and then they're like Dark Souls people for life kind of thing. Which is why I was able to play Dark Souls for as long as I did. Dark Souls was actually a relatively successful time for me, and I enjoyed it. And that was the, that was the key thing. It was like it went well, and it was enjoyable. But at a certain point, it's like, these challenge runs are getting a bit silly. I'm not keen on doing, soul level 1 punch only, or whatever stupid thing like that. And, the viewership starts to go down as well. And when you want to start going down that route with Dark Souls, the competition is really fierce. Like, if I'm not super interested in learning no-hit Dark Souls runs and compete with the likes of, Happy Hob, or his name's Happy Hob now, and it's people like that, that's a huge investment to compete with an established brand. And I'm not interested in doing it. Like, I just don't... Like, I like Dark Souls, but I don't like Dark Souls that much, if that makes sense. Although here's garbage, you really have to... You see, that's the thing. It doesn't matter if it's garbage or not, though. That's the kind of stuff that factors into perception and all that. For example... here's a good example. This is a problem with Dawn of War 3. When I was playing Dawn of War 3, one of the issues the game had was not an issue with the game. It was that stupid perception that it was taking a whole bunch of, or rather, what was it? What were people saying? It was that sort of memey, ridiculous complaint that had very little basis in fact or reality. That Dawn of War was a MOBA, or it was way too much like a MOBA, or all you have to do is blob and it's so easy and you play like a MOBA. That's complete garbage. But the fact that this kind of rumor would float around and people are stupid and don't actually learn how to play a game plagued the game. And again, it just sort of... I feel like it fell into a weird time frame with both the kinds of players they were appealing to and the rough time frame. Like, just people felt extra complainy at the time, if that makes any sense. Like, there was something just weird and bizarre and entitled about how just, like, kind of general gaming culture was at the time. And it still is. Nice. But it ebbs and flows. It goes up and down. Then you can maybe start drawing parallels with certain, American political climate stuff and blah, blah, blah. But I'm not going to do that. Favorite game? And so much that you can beat it level 1 with a shield in both hands. No, it wasn't level 1. That's the thing. Like, that's why I'm saying, like, you'd have to keep pushing that envelope in a more and more ridiculous direction. So, like, I did shield only, right? And then the next step was, like, level 1 shield only, or, something like that. A Nami stream? What? Here's the thing. I'm not in the position to place my stream to die on the hill to promote any specific game. The only thing that ends up dying is my stream. That's it. Like, that's why I play games I like as long as I can that I think deserve attention. And at a certain point, I gotta cut my losses and go. That's why I streamed Absolver as long as I could. That's why I streamed Dawn of War 3 as long as I could. That's why I streamed For Honor as long as I could. But yeah, at a certain point, I gotta go where, you know, essentially Twitch viewers are. This has been a really long talk. I've been talking for well over an hour.